side drawer of one of the bedroom cabinets of a picture of these teddy bears, all in situ. And he said the reason for that picture is that the maids have to put them back exactly like it's in that picture. He said if they don't, he shouts and screams.
Prince Andrew's controversies never seem to end. From his notorious friendship with Jeffrey Epstein to unsettling reports about his treatment of palace staff, his name has become almost synonymous with scandal. But just when it seemed the storm had finally quieted, former royal cop Paul Page reignited the fire with disturbing claims about what he witnessed inside Prince Andrew's bedroom. The details are strange, unexpected, and deeply unsettling. So what exactly did he see? Let's uncover the shocking truth. The disturbing discoveries in Prince Andrew's bedroom. Former Royal Protection Officer Paul Page recently made headlines after sharing unsettling details about his time working at Buckingham Palace. Speaking on a podcast, Page described scenes from inside Prince Andrew's private quarters that left him deeply uneasy. He hinted at odd habits, a demanding temperament, and moments that, according to him, revealed just how out of touch the Duke could be behind closed doors. For a man already surrounded by controversy, these revelations only deepen the cracks in his image. Now remember that Paul Page isn't some random outsider with an opinion. He was on the inside, part of the royal security team, an armed protection officer, assigned to some of the most senior royals, including the Queen, Prince Philip, and Prince Andrew himself. Between 1998 and 2004, Page served behind the palace gates, witnessing firsthand what life was really like inside Buckingham Palace. And according to him, Prince Andrew was totally different from the rest of his family, and not in a good way. In his words, the Queen was wonderful, very polite and respectful, while Prince Philip, though occasionally irritable, still treated people with a certain old-school sharpness. But Prince Andrew, Page claimed, was something else entirely, unpredictable, demanding, and downright rude to those who worked around him. According to Page, Andrew would regularly lose his temper over the smallest inconveniences. He recalled how the prince would shout at palace staff for things as trivial as a few seconds' delay at the gates. In one instance, Andrew allegedly screamed buffoons at royal protection officers simply because they did not open the gates fast enough. Page explained that officers were often dealing with multiple duties at once, managing guests, checking vehicles, and keeping track of who was coming and going. But that never seemed to matter to Andrew. Page painted a picture of a man who could not tolerate the slightest delay or deviation from perfection. According to him, there was no patience, no understanding. If something was not done exactly to Andrew's liking, he would fly off the handle. These were not just isolated incidents either. Page described Andrew's behavior as part of a larger pattern, a man used to being obeyed instantly, who demanded the world bend to his will. The way he treated staff, Page implied, stood in stark contrast to how other royals behaved. While the Queen carried herself with grace and humility, Andrew often acted as if courtesy was beneath him. What is making headlines again now is that these claims, originally shared years ago, have resurfaced after 60 Minutes Australia reshared their interview with Page from 3 years ago. In that interview, he did not hold back, laying out in detail the kind of temper and arrogance he claimed to have witnessed. It is the kind of behind-the-scenes insight that makes you wonder just how much of Andrew's public image was carefully polished and how much of it was simply a cover for what really went on behind palace doors. And it does not stop there. Page also appeared in a Channel 5 documentary, where he claimed that Prince Andrew once insulted a staff member by making a rude remark about their weight. It was yet another glimpse into what Page described as Andrew's bullying side, someone who did not just demand respect, but often humiliated those around him when things did not go his way. Now, to be fair, Paul Page's own record isn't spotless. In 2009, he was jailed for his role in a property fraud case where he conned people out of their money. But despite his past, his claims have drawn attention because of their consistency with other accounts of Andrew's temper and entitlement. It is not just about one man's story. It is about the growing pile of testimonies that all seem to paint a similar picture. Page was also featured in the 2022 ITV documentary Prince Andrew, Ghislaine, and the Pedophile with Ranveer Singh, where he again detailed Andrew's outbursts and odd habits. One of the strangest revelations from that program was about Andrew's huge collection of teddy bears. Page claimed that the prince kept an assortment of stuffed animals in his bedroom, each one arranged in a very specific order, and if a housekeeper misplaced even one, Andrew would lose his temper. It is the kind of bizarre detail that makes people question not just his behavior, but also his mindset. Was it arrogance? A lack of emotional maturity? Or something deeper and more disturbing about the way he viewed those who served him? Either way, these resurfaced claims have reignited the conversation around Prince Andrew's conduct, a conversation that never truly seems to die down. With his reputation already in tatters after the Jeffrey Epstein scandal and that infamous BBC interview, this fresh wave of revelations feels like gasoline poured on a fire that refuses to burn out. At this point, the question isn't whether Prince Andrew can restore his image, it is whether there is anything left to salvage. Because if even half of what Paul Page described is true, then behind the royal titles and polished smiles lies a man whose behavior might be just as questionable as the company he has kept. But just when you think the list of strange stories surrounding Prince Andrew could not possibly get any longer, another bizarre detail emerges, one that has baffled and fascinated the public in equal measure: his lifelong obsession with teddy bears. Prince Andrew's teddy bear obsession. According to multiple former palace staff, Prince Andrew's attachment to his stuffed toys wasn't just a passing quirk, it was practically a royal ritual. Charlotte Briggs, a former Buckingham Palace maid who worked for the Duke in the mid-1990s, told The Sun in 2022 that one of her daily duties was arranging Andrew's 72 teddy bears. Yes, 72, in perfect order every single morning. And this wasn't a casual task. There were rules, training, and consequences. Each bear, according to Briggs, had its own designated spot. Many were dressed in miniature sailor outfits, a nod to Andrew's naval background, and they varied in size and style, mostly old-fashioned stiff bears collected from around the world. Every morning, Briggs spent about half an hour carefully lining them up in order of size. The smallest bears went into an unused fireplace, stacked neatly to make them look pretty. Two of his favorites, she claimed, sat like tiny monarchs on thrones beside his bed, while the rest were arranged at its foot. Then, at night, the process reversed. The bears were moved from the bed and arranged around the room, each in its assigned place. If anything was even slightly out of order, Briggs said, Andrew would lose his temper. The level of precision expected was so extreme that palace staff relied on a laminated instruction sheet that outlined exactly how each bear should be positioned. Paul Page confirmed this detail in his own account, saying he personally saw about 50 or 60 stuffed toys on the Duke's bed during his years with the Royal Protection Command. According to Page, there was indeed a laminated card kept in a drawer, showing a photograph of the bears arranged perfectly. The reason for the laminated picture, Page said, was if those bears weren't put back in the right order by the maids, he would shout and scream. Both Buckingham Palace and Prince Andrew's spokesperson declined to comment on these claims, but the consistency between accounts is hard to ignore. And it wasn't just staff who noticed Andrew's peculiar fondness for plush toys. Journalist Elizabeth Day once had her own strange encounter with it. In a 2019 You magazine story titled The Strange Day. Met Prince Andrew's teddy bear, she recalled an interview she had with the Duke a decade earlier. While waiting to meet him, she spotted an oversized teddy bear sitting in a chair in the corridor. Curious, she asked about it once, inside. Andrew, she wrote, sniggered and told her the bear was a wedding gift from his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson. Apparently, the toy had been waiting for him inside the horse-drawn carriage that carried the couple from Westminster Abbey to their wedding reception. Day noted that even years later, Andrew seemed oddly amused by the story, as though the presence of a stuffed toy on his wedding day still tickled him deeply. But perhaps the most telling detail came from Andrew himself. In 2010, the Duke reportedly admitted to The Sun that he had always collected teddy bears, saying that everywhere he went during his time in the Navy, he would buy a small bear. What might have started as a sentimental hobby somehow became a strict ritual woven into his daily life, one that blurred the line between nostalgia and obsession. To outsiders, it's both fascinating and deeply odd. The image of a grown man, a prince no less, with military honors throwing tantrums over stuffed animals arranged in the wrong order. For the public, the story of Prince Andrew's teddy bear obsession adds yet another surreal layer to the already complicated portrait of a man whose life has been marked by privilege, controversy, and scandal. Whether seen as a harmless eccentricity or a window into a troubled personality, one thing is certain. It's one more bizarre chapter in the ongoing saga of a prince whose behavior never ceases to raise eyebrows. If you thought the teddy bear obsession was strange, wait until you hear this. Because the story that truly turned Prince Andrew's name into a headline, and not the flattering kind, was his scandalous friendship with one man, Jeffrey Epstein. The scandalous ties with Jeffrey Epstein. The connection between the Duke of York and the convicted sex offender has become one of the most controversial royal associations in modern history. It is a friendship that started decades ago, surrounded by luxury and influence, and ended in disgrace, dragging Andrew's reputation through the mud in the process. When Andrew sat down for his infamous BBC Newsnight interview in 2019, he tried to play down their relationship. With a calm face and a stiff voice, he told interviewer Emily Maitlis that he only saw Epstein once or twice a year, maybe 3 times at most. He insisted it was more about networking, claiming Epstein had the most extraordinary ability to bring extraordinary people together. But that carefully rehearsed defense did not quite line up with what came next. Andrew claimed they first met in 1999 through their mutual friend, Ghislaine Maxwell, Epstein's longtime companion and social connector. He described Maxwell as someone he had known since her university days, trying to frame it all as casual and almost coincidental. But his former private secretary, Alistair Watson, said something different, that Andrew had known Epstein since the early 1990s. So already the story was not adding up. What we do know is this. In February 1999, flight logs revealed that Prince Andrew visited Epstein's private island in the Caribbean. That same year, Epstein and Maxwell reportedly stayed at Balmoral, the Queen's beloved Scottish retreat. A photo later found in Epstein's Manhattan mansion showed the pair sitting outside the exact log cabin often used by the royal family. And yes, that image came up during Maxwell's 2021 trial. By 2000, Epstein was no longer just a name in Andrew's contact book. He was a fixture. In February, they were spotted together at Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago club in Florida, along with Melania Trump and socialite Gwendolyn Beck. Then, in April, Andrew was photographed leaving a restaurant in New York after what witnesses described as a lunch date with Maxwell, and it did not stop there. In June that same year, Epstein attended Andrew's 40th birthday party at Windsor Castle, hosted by Queen Elizabeth herself. When Maitlis pressed Andrew about that during the Newsnight interview, he admitted Epstein had been his guest, but tried to spin it, saying, "It was his girlfriend that was the key element in this. He was the plus one, as if that somehow made it better. By December 2000, Epstein was on the guest list again, this time for a private shooting weekend at Sandringham. Andrew brushed off the event as just a straightforward weekend, but it was becoming clear this was no distant acquaintance. Epstein was part of his circle. Then came 2001, the year everything changed. That was when Virginia Giuffre accused Prince Andrew of sexually assaulting her when she was 17. The now infamous photo of Andrew with his arm around her waist, Maxwell smiling in the background, became one of the most haunting images of the scandal. Andrew's defense was that he had no recollection of ever meeting her and that on the night in question, he was at a Pizza Express in Woking. That claim alone turned him into the punchline of a global controversy. Years later, in 2021, Giuffre took her fight to court, filing a civil suit against the Duke in New York. The powerful and the rich are not exempt from being held responsible for their actions, she declared. The case ended in 2022 with a confidential settlement and no admission of guilt, but the silence spoke volumes. Still, the prince's questionable choices did not stop there. Even after Epstein was first arrested in 2006, he attended Princess Beatrice's 18th birthday party at Windsor Castle. Photos later showed Epstein posing with Harvey Weinstein at the event, a pairing that, in hindsight, reads like the guest list from the Lake of Fire. When asked why Epstein was even invited, Andrew said he had no idea the man was under investigation. Convenient, but hardly convincing. By 2008, Epstein had been convicted and sentenced to 18 months in jail for soliciting prostitution from a minor. He served just 13, spending most of his time out on work release. Most people would have cut ties permanently at that point, but not Andrew. 2 years later, in 2010, the Duke was spotted visiting Epstein in New York. He even stayed at Epstein's mansion, the same home where prosecutors would later find an endless stream of evidence, photos, logs, and names. When asked why he stayed there, Andrew coolly replied, "It was a convenient place to stay." He insisted he only went to tell Epstein face-to-face that their friendship had to end, calling it the honorable thing to do. He even admitted, "My judgment was probably colored by my tendency to be too honorable. The internet did not buy it, and neither did the public." A photo from that trip showed the two men walking through Central Park, chatting casually like old friends. The image made global headlines. The photographer, Jay Donnelly, later said, "Without that photo, they could have denied knowing each other." And that photo, for them, sadly exists. Despite Andrew's repeated claims that he cut contact after 2010, leaked emails in 2025 proved that was not true. Communication between the two continued quietly and for years. And if that was not messy enough, in 2011, Sarah Ferguson added fuel to the fire. She admitted that Epstein had helped pay off £15,000 of her personal debt. She called it a gigantic error of judgment, but later emails exposed her thanking Epstein, calling him a steadfast, generous, and supreme friend. That revelation made things worse, not better. By 2015, Prince Andrew's name was officially linked to a United States court case involving Epstein's victims. Buckingham Palace went into full defense mode, releasing statements denying every accusation. Any suggestion of impropriety with underage minors is categorically untrue, they declared. But the public's trust was already gone. Then came 2019, the year the Epstein scandal exploded all over again. Epstein was arrested in July on federal charges related to sex trafficking. A month later, he was found dead in his jail cell in what was ruled a suicide. His death reignited every unanswered question, and all eyes turned once again to Prince Andrew. That November, Andrew made the fateful decision to sit for BBC Newsnight. The interview was meant to clear his name, but instead, it destroyed what was left of it. His answers were defensive, tone-deaf, and cold. He expressed no sympathy for Epstein's victims and doubled down on his implausible Pizza Express alibi. Within days, the fallout was brutal. Charities dropped him, institutions cut ties, and Buckingham Palace quietly froze him out. For years, Andrew had been the Queen's favorite son. But after that interview, even royal insiders admitted he had become a liability. The once celebrated Duke of York was stripped of his titles, his public duties vanished, and his name became a global synonym for scandal. And that is the bitter truth. What began as a friendship with a powerful man turned into a royal catastrophe. Because no matter how hard Prince Andrew tries to rewrite the story, one fact remains. His connection to Jeffrey Epstein did not just stain his reputation, it obliterated it. What began as a friendship with a powerful man had spiraled into a royal catastrophe that shook the very walls of Buckingham Palace. Public outrage was relentless, and behind those palace gates, the pressure was suffocating. The monarchy could no longer ignore the damage. The Queen, who had always been protective of her second son, now faced the impossible, balancing maternal loyalty with royal duty. And as conversations grew tense behind the scenes, one truth became clear: something had to give. And so came the moment that marked the beginning of the end for Prince Andrew, the slow, humiliating unraveling of his royal status. Losing his title. By November 20th, 2019, the heat was unbearable. With headlines circling like vultures and public trust fading fast, Prince Andrew released a carefully worded statement. He announced that he would be stepping back from royal duties indefinitely. "It has become clear to me over the last few days," the statement read, "that the circumstances relating to my former association with Jeffrey Epstein have become a major disruption to my family's work and the valuable work going on in the many organizations and charities that I am proud to support." It was the beginning of his exile. Andrew added that he had asked Her Majesty for permission to step back for the foreseeable future, and she had agreed. To the public, it sounded like a voluntary move, but those who understood royal protocol knew better. This was the Queen quietly drawing the line. He went on to express unequivocal regret over his ill-judged association with Epstein and claimed to sympathize deeply with the victims. He also said he was willing to cooperate with law enforcement if required. But after that disastrous Newsnight interview, his apology fell flat. The tone felt detached, and the damage was already beyond repair. Then, in 2022, came the blow that sealed his downfall. After Virginia Giuffre filed a civil lawsuit against him in the United States and a judge refused to dismiss it, Queen Elizabeth made her final, decisive move. Buckingham Palace released a brief but cold statement. With the Queen's approval and agreement, the Duke of York's military affiliations and royal patronages have been returned to the Queen. The Duke of York will continue not to undertake any public duties and is defending this case as a private citizen. In one sentence, Andrew was stripped of the honors that once defined him. No more military titles, no more royal patronages, no more His Royal Highness. The Queen had effectively cut her son loose. A month later, in February 2022, Andrew and Giuffre settled out of court. The statement released alongside it declared that Epstein had trafficked countless young girls and that the Duke regrets his association with him. He pledged to support the fight against sex trafficking, a promise few believed. The scandal even inspired Netflix's Scoop, a dramatization of the Newsnight interview that captured how one televised conversation ended an entire royal career. Because in the end, no crown, title, or mother's love could shield him from accountability. Prince Andrew's fall was not sudden. It was the slow, public unmasking of a man who believed his royal blood made him untouchable. And yet, behind all the controversy and disgrace, there was one person who had always seen him differently, one person whose affection for him never truly faded, no matter how dark things became. To her, he was not the scandal-plagued Duke of York. He was simply Andrew, her son, the Queen's favorite son. For decades, the bond between Queen Elizabeth II and Prince Andrew sparked quiet speculation and endless debate among royal watchers. Within the family's famously formal walls, it was widely believed that Andrew held a uniquely soft spot in his mother's heart, a closeness that went beyond royal protocol and hinted at something deeply personal. Prince Andrew was born in 1960 during a calmer, more settled period in the Queen's reign. Her early years as monarch had been consumed by state duties, world tours, and the pressures of leading an empire. But by the time Andrew arrived, the Queen's life had found rhythm, and for the first time, she could slow down and truly enjoy motherhood. Royal analysts often note that Andrew and his younger brother, Edward, benefited from a mother who was more emotionally present than Charles and Anne ever had. The Queen's schedule in the 1960s was less relentless, giving her time to be at home, to laugh, to listen, and to simply be mum. This timing mattered. It shaped the way Andrew grew up in a more relaxed household, with a mother who could finally balance duty with family. While Charles and Anne grew up watching their parents from a distance, Andrew experienced the Queen up close. That difference, subtle but powerful, set the tone for a lifelong bond. Royal experts often described Andrew as the most cheerful and easygoing of her children, charming, witty, and effortlessly sociable. For a monarch whose life revolved around duty, Andrew's lighthearted personality was a breath of fresh air. His humor, his ease, and his knack for making her laugh were small, human comforts in a life otherwise ruled by formality. Even geography worked in his favor. Andrew and Edward attended schools close to Windsor Castle, which allowed the Queen to visit more often. She could see them regularly, share lunches, and peek into their lessons, the kind of ordinary moments she had missed with her elder children. That proximity nurtured closeness, transforming their relationship from ceremonial to genuinely affectionate. Then came Andrew's time in the Royal Navy, a turning point that made the Queen's pride in him visible to the world. When he served as a helicopter pilot during the Falklands War, risking his life in active combat, the Queen was openly anxious. Her concern was not the distant composure of a monarch, but the raw emotion of a mother watching her son head into danger. When he returned safely, that pride was unmistakable. Andrew was not just her child. He was a living embodiment of duty and courage, traits she valued above all. Insiders have long said that the Queen's affection for Andrew was reflected in small, telling gestures. She reportedly exchanged handwritten letters with him and received him with visible warmth during palace visits, little things that carried enormous emotional weight. Even when his siblings took on more prominent royal duties, Andrew often found himself by her side during family events. Whether at Trooping the Colour or informal gatherings at Balmoral, their body language spoke volumes, a shared smile here, a knowing glance there. Royal commentators believe Andrew reminded the Queen of a more peaceful chapter in her life. His birth coincided with a period of renewed stability in her marriage to Prince Philip, a time when the royal household felt less burdened by duty and more anchored in family. To her, Andrew symbolized not just a son, but a sense of calm and balance after years of strain. Still, affection did not mean blind indulgence. When Andrew's scandals began to stain the royal image, the Queen reportedly struggled deeply. Though her love for him never wavered, she also understood the weight of her crown. Even when she stripped him of his titles, royal insiders said she did so with a heavy heart. It was the hardest decision for a mother who had always believed her son could do no wrong. In the end, the belief that Andrew was her favorite son might be more symbolic than literal, a reflection of timing, temperament, and the unique warmth they shared. The Queen was a mother first and a monarch second, and Andrew was the one who got to know both sides of her. And that is what makes their relationship so fascinating. Not because it was perfect, but because it was deeply human. Behind the tiaras and titles was a mother who loved her son fiercely, even when the rest of the world turned its back on him. What are your thoughts on Prince Andrew? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, click the next video shown on your screen. You will enjoy it.